So Hayabusa, the tool that I'm talking about today, it's advanced Windows Event log analysis tool, and it's designed for the efficient detection of suspicious activities in Windows logs. And okay, this is just four of the categories or the plugins that you can use. And these are just some common modules. And the goal of Hayabusa really is to reduce noise and get targeted log results as quickly as possible. So with EID metrics, this actually shows just the total number and the percentage of event IDs that are present in the evidence that you supply. And that gives you a bit of statistical analysis. It's a nice way to start. Then you've got logon summary, which shows the logon usernames and the successful and failed login counts. You've got search, which is a targeted keyword search that goes through all of the event logs that you're pointing Hayabusa at. And then you've got my favorite one, which is the CSV timeline. And the reason it's my favorite is it makes it really easy to follow using this chronological timeline of events. And it's just a really easy way to get started. And if you use a really tight timeline filter, this actually makes the whole search so much quicker. So I'll break down the command that I've got here. For simplicity, I decided not to use a time filter, and I had the luxury of not doing that because the log file that I was using, the base file triage_security, was about 150 meg. So at the start of the command, we've got CSV timeline, which is the plugin, -C, which is clobber. So because I'd been running some tests to stop Hayabusa exiting when it says, hey, you've already got a file that exists, this just overwrites. -F is where we supply the input file. -U is changing it from the default, which is it processes in local time and forces it to use UTC. -G is a switch if you've already downloaded the MaxMind database files, and it's designed to enrich the logs with GeoIP location stuff. -M is for multi-line. So that's when we're exporting to CSV. That makes it easier to read. And then finally, -O is where we want to save the output of the file. And in this case, it's CSV. You can also do funky stuff like dump it into JSON and some other formats that can then be used to import into TimeSketch and ElkStack. So if we come back to stack analysis, these screenshots show how easy it is to just review the results directly from the command line once it's finished processing. And this is using the computer and event ID metrics commands. And so doing a bit of stack analysis, we can look at some of the outliers and we can see what looks unusual. It's just going to take a little bit of time to understand what looks unusual and what is normal in the environment. There are some things that will stand out really easily, some living off the land attacks, but also things like new services registered. And there's some more, especially the last one here, but possible time stomping, but there's some more that'll come up on the next screenshot. But if you just want to have a go just to see what will pop up, just run Hayabusa with the no timeline filter. In general, this can take a little bit longer, depending on how big the Windows event log file is. But with the default log sizes of most Windows installs, and because it's by default set to overwrite as needed, they're not going to be too massive. In the talk that the author of Hayabusa did on YouTube, he was doing, as you can see in this screenshot, he was searching from 2009 to 2022. I think he was talking about like 4.6 million events. It was an insanely long time. And what he found is that when he had everything enabled in things like the Sysmon rules, the emerging rules, the threat hunting rules, all the different event rule categories, so critical, high, medium, and low, and it took him days. And through his whole workflow, he spoke about this is how we can refine it. This is how we can get results that take days down to 2 hours. And considering that's 4.6 million events, that's quite significant. For me, the searching that I was doing probably took about 90 seconds. But this is metrics-driven statistics that I was talking about. And in this instance, This is an example of a system that got hit extremely hard. This is lit up like a Christmas tree. And the logs that I was looking at, they're not as impressive as this. It didn't fire so many alerts. But to get this, if you were to analyze CSV logs, all you have to do is use that CSV timeline option. And when those alerts are parsed and you run it through Hayabusa, you can then go into Excel and you'll see that you've got the different categories. You've got the criticals, your highs, mediums, and lows. And if you filter, say, on critical and then colorize that with red, and then you go back, get rid of that filter and filter for high alerts, colorize that with yellow, and so on and so forth for your mediums, your lows, and your informationals. And then when you enable all the filters again, what you'll see is in that chronological order, you'll see all the colors that kind of intermingle and give you a better picture of what is occurring as the time goes on. So it is very efficient. My example was 90 seconds for about 150 meg log file, which I thought was brilliant. And then that allowed me to colorize and then move on. So this is an example of what I had. I only had one high alert, which was user added to local admin group. I agree with that sentiment. With the mediums, I think there was probably, if I was looking at this from an incident perspective, I'd be a little bit more suspicious of something running PowerShell with Windows remote management. It would definitely get my attention. And so I chose in the screenshot to highlight these as red, but it's one of the cases where it might start out as a medium. Upon investigation, we might bump it up to a high. We might leave it as, hey, it was a legitimate alert from an admin doing some normal admin stuff. This is what it looks like. So in my example, the log file that I picked, unfortunately, there was only one high alert. And after I colorized it, it was really easy to see that user added to a local admin group. And that was the only juicy target that I could find. But I did find that pretty much straight away, because as soon as I filtered on high, it was the only result that was left. It's like, yeah, it took the wind out of my sails on that one. I was hoping to find a little bit more, but that's all we had. So where can you get it? Go to GitHub. Auto Security doesn't just make Hayabusa. They've got another tool called Takajo, which is covered off in the SANS 608 course for a bit more targeted searching of Windows event logs. It is open source and it's super well documented, which is really cool. I remember looking at the documentation and being really impressed. So it's all there. It's easy to understand. The learning curve is not steep. I highly recommend getting in there and doing it.